Hey guys, Mr. T here. This is another video. This one is on the idea of decimal numbers. So a decimal number is any number that's got a decimal point in it. Well, you could write pretty much any number with a decimal point in it. We just don't bother if it's whole numbers. Now, decimal numbers give us a way to write non-integer, non-whole numbers. So that's why they're important. So for example, we've got 5 point. That's the decimal point there. 62 is a decimal number. But we need to break down what that actually represents. So hopefully in your primary school days, you've understood that the position of the numbers means something around the decimal point. This is the units or ones column. This is the tenths. Tenths. And this is the hundredths column. So as you go to the right of the decimal point, the size of the things in each column is 10 times smaller than it was before. As you go to the left of the decimal point, every column represents things that are 10 times bigger than the column before it. So this represents 5 units or ones and 6 tenths and 2 hundredths. Okay? Now this shows that there's a relationship between decimals and fractions, because I can write tenths and hundredths and units, frankly, as fractions, because a whole number can be written as a fraction by just putting it over the denominator 1. So this is actually 5 units, 5 ones, plus 6 tenths, 6 over 10, which is 6 tenths, plus 2 hundredths. Okay? So that even more clearly shows that there's a relationship between decimals and fractions. So let's do another example. Write 6.302 in expanded fractional form. So we've got units, tenths, hundredths, thousandths. I'll do the units in capital and the smaller fractional ones in lowercase. Write it in expanded fractional form. So what we're trying to do is write it like this. So we've got 6 ones plus 3 tenths plus 0 hundredths plus 2 thousandths. And really you don't need to write this. You can write it just in case anyway, but better off not. It's redundant information. So you can see that we've converted a decimal into a fractional form. Okay? Now, if you go further, because that's a really laborious way of writing it, we can write that as 6 wholes plus 302 thousandths. That's an easier way of writing it, okay? But really, the key is what I'd be looking for is this. That's expanded fractional form, and it's an expanded fractional form of writing 6.302. The key is to remember that there's a link between decimals and fractions. Now let's go back the other way. Write 3 plus 2 tenths plus 4 hundredths plus 1 10,000 in decimal form. So that's going to be 3 in the unit column, plus 2 in the tenths column, plus 4 in the hundredths column. There's nothing in the thousandths column, so they haven't written any fraction over 1,000. So there's going to be nothing here, and there's going to be 1 10,000, so it's going to be 3.2401 in decimal form. So now we've established there's a link between decimals and fractions. We need to be able to convert decimals and fractions between each other. With this understanding, you can convert any decimal to a fraction and vice versa. So, write 0.8 as a fraction. Well, I know that that is 8 tenths because you've got 8 in the tenths column. So that is a fraction now. But in high school maths, it's good practice to write everything in lowest form. And that's not in the lowest form because I can divide the numerator and denominator by the same thing. I can divide them both by 2. So 8/10 is 8 divided by 2 is 4, and 10 divided by 2 is 5. That is 0.8 as a fraction in simplest form. Okay? And next, or the last example we'll do is 0.065 as a fraction. So we've got no tenths, we've got sixths, hundredths, plus 5 thousandths. Now you need to understand, or need to remember, that the hundredths are 10 times the size of the thousandths. So if I've got 6 hundredths, that actually means that I've got 60 thousandths in that. Okay? Plus 5 thousandths. Because I want to represent it as one fraction, I need to bring these two fractions together, and I can only add two fractions together if they've got the same denominator. So that's why I converted 6 hundredths into 60 thousandths. So with the same denominator, 60 plus 5 is going to be 65 thousandths. And so now, that is a fraction now, but it's not in the simplest form. I can see that these two, because the top one ends in a 5 and the bottom one ends in a 0, they're both divisible by 5. So how many 5s go into 65? That's 13 of them. How many 5s go into 1,000? There's 200. And 13 and 200, they don't have any common factors, so 13 over 200 is 0.065 as a fraction. Just double check quickly, 0.065. So that is hopefully a good idea, showing you the relationships between decimals and fractions and how you can convert between the two. Hopefully that helps you out, and I'll see you in the next video.